Content warning. On this podcast, we discuss sensitive issues, including but not limited to swearing, tasteless jokes, situations of a sexual nature, and drug use. This podcast is not intended for children.
Welcome to BiblioWrecks, where we read the world's worst stories. I'm BamBam.
And I'm Bugsosaurus!
Yay!
I heard that we're having dinosaurs.
We are having dinosaurs and anime and Jesus.
Oh, wait. Jesus? Anime Jesus.
That's right. So today we're reading The Truth Chronicles by Tim Schafe and Joe Westbrook.
Tim Schafe.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds familiar. Does
you
he work
probably
with...
heard of him.
Yeah. Does he do stuff with the Creation Museum or whatever?
Yeah, he works... I think he works for Answers in Genesis, but yeah, he works at the Creationist Museum and the Ark Encounter.
I think he may have done the Night at the Museum knockoff.
Yeah. He's
God,
the really tall guy that was in that. Yeah.
I watched the Emma Thorne takedown of that, and I died laughing.
Yeah.
She is so funny. It was so good.
Yeah, he currently, as far as I know, works developing content for the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter.
Okay, so that makes sense for why he's writing this story.
So that's our first author, and our other author is Joe Westbrook. I don't know fuck all about Joe Westbrook.
I don't think I
And as far as I can tell, nobody else does either.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's their janitor that he was like, hey, come listen to this.
I don't know what he contributed because he never wrote anything before, and as far as I can tell, he hasn't written anything since, and he's only credited as working on 6 out of the 10 books in this series.
Oh.
So I'm unsure of his involvement.
Weird.
Yeah. But he has to bear this cross for
having
his name on this piece of shit.
Oh, no. I guess since he's fairly unknown, maybe he can change his identity and start a new life.
Maybe. There could feasibly be hope, but you never know. You never know. So, allegedly, Tim Schafe...
Schafe.
Is it Schafe?
It is Schafe.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Well, he allegedly had the idea for this when he saw one of his students in his class, because I think he teaches young earth creationism to kids or something at like a Christian university.
Okay.
I think that's what it is. But one of his students were drawing manga in his class. Mm-hmm. So this gave him an idea to write a manga to pander to the anime-pilled teens around 9 to 15 and sneak some Jesus into them.
Because no one actually had that idea before.
Yeah, no one's ever tried to pander to children.
This is original.
And it works every time.
I mean, there was anime-style cartoons that were Jesus-centered when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what they were called, but I know they went like back in time and saw Moses and stuff, and it was anime style.
Are you sure you haven't already read part of this series?
Huh? What? When did this come out?
This started in 2010.
Oh no, I wasn't an adult by then.
Well, this may harken back to that.
I'm just saying that Christians have been making terrible children's media for a very long time, and it's he thinks he's coming across this great new idea when. Dude, you're just... Yeah.
Cringe.
He
wanted to do a manga. He did not do a manga.
Okay, I was wondering about that, if this... Because you listened to the audiobook.
Yep. So, he couldn't afford to pay a manga artist for more than one piece of art per chapter.
Oh, no.
So, he cheaped out on the art... and just bloated it with his young earth creationist rhetoric instead. And I'll show you just the cover.
This is a chick track with a chapter attached to each section.
Here's the cover art for
the... Oh, I will have to put this on the Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Isn't that dinosaur, like...
That dinosaur
does that dinosaur have fuck
sentient.
eyes?
He looks like he is looking deep into our soul and is excited.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Okay, so we have a girl with long green hair.
Mm-hmm.
A
So
dude.
that one is Mickey.
Mickey.
The dude with the blue spiky hair, that is our protagonist because he has the protagonist hair.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be Jax. The girl next to him
With
is
the brown
JT.
hair. Okay.
That's our resident young Earth creationist.
Oh.
And then there's
a black kid kind of in the
Izzy.
back.
Yeah, that's Izzy. He is the resident smart kid, even though in this story it tries to present them all as like kind of geniuses because they're going to like the smartest high school thing in the country or something.
We can tell he's smart because he has glasses.
Yeah, of course.
And then right behind, like, it's almost like they are their own poster. And then we also clip art a dinosaur head right behind them that has its mouth open, but it's not looking at them, it's looking at us.
Yeah.
And he has some eyebrows.
Yeah.
This dinosaur is...
I'm telling you, that Allosaurus, he wants to fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, he is... It's very weird how the art styles don't match. Like, that to me, because, I mean, the characters look kind of manga. Not...
Yeah, I don't think that the art is like...
well done.
I don't think the art is like super bad or anything. And if they were charging enough that Tim Schafer couldn't afford them, they're probably at least decent.
Yeah.
And they have some standard about them, which I think good for them.
It's very obvious that the dinosaur was not drawn at the same time as these four characters. Yeah, I'll post that with the socials when this goes up. Wow. You know what? I don't know if I would have been attracted to that as a kid or not, because I think that would have been kind of babyish.
Yeah, I know.
When I was 10 or 11.
I swear I remember seeing the cover when I was a kid, and I was like, that's cringe, even at fucking the tender age of like, I think I was like 12 or something at the time, so I was right in the demographic. Am I right about that?
Well, I mean, if it
doesn't
came
matter.
out in 2010, you would have been like 15-ish, right?
Probably.
14?
I can't do math on the fly. All the reviews I read seem to be like grandparents wanting to buy this for their grandkids and stuff. Of
course. Oh my god.
Because they thought it was the fucking bee's knees. I didn't see a bad review in the bunch.
Because the 12-year-olds being forced to read this are not allowed to be on the internet.
But also, after reading this, I just can't imagine a kid wanting to read this.
I mean...
I've read this twice, and
right.
I can't see it.
If you're not allowed... If you're seeing other kids access good manga, and then you get handed this, I could see reading it because you have nothing else.
Yeah.
But no, kids are not going to be like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. Poor things.
The story begins with a scientist named Jeff Thompson. Now, this is a reference, and he does a bunch of like little references to other people that work at Answers in Genesis.
Oh my god.
This is the only one I'm going to mention because it's Jeffrey Tompkins. He's the one that can't do math and thinks that chimps aren't related to us enough. Because, that's his whole shtick, is that he fucks up the math on, like, genetic relatedness.
This sounds like just an ego trip for Tim Schafer and the people at Answers in Genesis. Get
all his little buddies in a book for the kids.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. That's the only one I know of, because I'm not that up-to-date on Answers in Genesis, so... So anyway, the scientist, Jeff Thompson, is working late on a project that is going to, quote, change the world, or change the way the world looks at history. That's when he sees shadowy figures in the edge of his vision before a pain shoots through his head and he sees no more.
Oh.
Yeah. We scene change to the scientist's son, Jax Thompson. His name is Jax. It's Jax.
Yes.
The douchiest of all Jacks.
Yes. That is apparently a pretty common form of Jackson now. It's just Jax, yes.
God, I hate the way
Amy
people name kids.
Amy knows some people named Jax.
All right, fine.
Yes.
We follow Jax, and this is 3 years in the future, past scientist dad
getting murdered for his beliefs. Oh.
So Jax is a sophomore, and he is our messy genius teen with spiky anime protagonist hair.
Right.
And he is in between classes. It's really weird, like, the technology that's going on, because it barely ever comes up, but, like, his locker has, like, a thumbprint scanner. Weird. So this is supposed to be, like, a really high-end, technologically advanced school.
Okay. Where they just have money to throw at lockers?
Yeah, I guess so.
I thought it was a, middle school ritual to have anxiety over getting the code in right. And then have nightmares that you forgot your code and couldn't get into your locker.
Yeah, these fucking kids nowadays don't know anything. That's when Jax's best friend Izzy, other genius stereotype boy, tells Jax that he knows why the machine, we don't know what kind of machine yet, it's a time machine, but he knows why the machine isn't working, and Jax thinks to himself that they could be traveling through time tonight. So,
okay.
Yeah. So they're trying to figure out, like, a lot of the little kinks and stuff. So Jax and Izzy head to class, and everyone is discussing the upcoming science fair. And this is why they're working on building a time machine.
Right.
The teacher of the class is asking each group how their projects are progressing. So this part really bothers the fuck out of me. I know you were homeschooled, did you ever have to do, like, a science fair or anything? Like a science fair project?
I barely did. I did one science experiment ever. No.
Kind of the purpose of a science fair project is to let students showcase that they understand the scientific method, independent variables, experiment, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And using it in a hands-on way. And these kids aren't doing that. They're just inventing gadgets.
Oh.
So I don't think that Tim Chaffee or Joe Westbrook know what a science fair project is either.
Weird.
Yeah.
That as a homeschooler, that is probably what I would have assumed a science fair was like.
Yeah, because on TV, that's how you see it.
Yeah, for the science fair, I built this volcano that blows up, and it becomes a real volcano. Yeah, like, was that Meet the Robinsons? Where the kid keeps creating, like, crazy inventions. Yeah. And then he gets in trouble every time. Yeah, I wouldn't know the difference either.
Right. So, yeah, these kids are just inventing gadgets, and while it's cool, it doesn't actually prove that they understand the foundational ground of science.
Right.
There are 3 main groups, which really there's only 2, but one group is making a hoverboard, another one is making a time machine, and then a third group is making a disintegrator ray.
Okay.
And that group is actually it's like a time travel reference. Have you ever heard of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, this is William and Theodore, I think.
Oh, okay.
So they're just kind of some goofy background characters that they don't really do anything.
Isn't it like a competition where some people win and some people lose?
Yeah, and this one, if you win, you get like a $50,000 grant to go to college.
Good God.
Yeah.
This sounds more futuristic and crazy than anything else so far.
Jax is ogling JT, who is the brown-haired girl on the cover.
Okay, yeah.
So he's watching them, and they're talking to the teacher, and JT and Mickey are having power issues with their project. They're doing the hoverboard. And the teacher moves on to Jax and Izzy, and the teacher expresses doubts about their time machine project. And he says that the world's greatest scientists have been unable to figure this out. And I feel like this is kind of trying to be like a parallel with young earth creationism proving God, I guess.
Okay.
Like, even though the greater scientific community says you can't really prove... Something like that. I don't know if
It's
that's a
like
thing or
the
not.
lone genius who goes off and has these brilliant ideas that are rejected by
Yeah.
modern, contemporary
Right. So
normies.
that's kind of what I feel like it's doing.
Gotcha.
The teacher tells Bill and Ted, just don't disintegrate anything with your disintegrator ray, which I think is just dumb. Why are they allowed to have a disintegrator gun?
Yeah, it'd be like handing a kid a pistol. Don't think it's a good idea.
And at the end of the story, this turns out to be Chekhov's disintegrator ray.
Oh, great.
They're not the only ones with like an accidental mishap history. Jax and Izzy the year before, for some reason, were just mixing a bunch of chemicals in a classroom and they blew it the fuck up.
Yeesh.
So yeah, none of these kids should be allowed to just have access to chemicals and high-grade materials like these.
Wouldn't the more realistic thing would be they have very wealthy parents and their parents are actually at home meticulously building it and then sending them in at 7 a.m. the next day with...
Well, that's more or less what's happening, at least with Jax and Izzy. I'm not sure about the other two groups, but that's more or less what's happening.
Oh my god.
Jax and Izzy and JT and Mickey, they're all already friends, and they recently watched Back to the Future together.
Right.
And that's where the girls got the idea to work on a hoverboard for their project.
Oh,
and
okay.
the reason they were watching it at all was because Jax and Izzy were doing research for the time machine, because that's how they did research for...
That's very Alex Jones.
Yep.
If we watch a movie, it will tell us the future.
Yeah. So they all make a bet. Whoever loses the science fair has to buy dinner for the other group, even though there's already an incentive. So it's like a double incentive. If you win, you get dinner and $50,000. I don't know why we needed extra incentive there, but it's fine. So Jax goes home. He starts working on the machine in the garage, and that's when his mom comes in, and this is where a little bit of the apologetics start. She comes in and tells him that she'll be glad when this project is done because he's been late for school and he's been missing church, and he used to love going to church until his dad died.
Okay.
So Jack retorts that his dad never went to church, so why should he?
Right.
Fair point.
Okay.
And why would an allegedly all-knowing, all-loving God kill his dad? So Jax has found the problem of evil here.
Yes. Yes.
So his mom says that he can't hold a grudge against God, and we never get an answer why.
Right. We don't ever establish that his feelings are valid or that she doesn't have a logical, reasonable response to these problems.
And she keeps doing that, and so does JT. JT also gets in on this.
This poor kid.
So the story never addresses his questions, but this is an attempt at representing an atheist perspective.
Right.
But it's doing it...
You're mad at God because your dad died.
Which isn't even an atheist perspective. Like, Jax doesn't not believe in God. He hates him.
Right.
And he thinks he's bad.
Exactly.
So Izzy shows up and they start working on the machine. Izzy starts teasing Jax that he likes JT, but Jax thinks that she's just too obsessed with being Christian and going to church with his mom and stuff, because they have some kind of women's group or something. And Izzy says that JT isn't dumb. Surely she has good reasons for the things that she believes.
Oh, okay.
And I'll agree that she has reasons. Also, Jax kind of negs her at this point because he says that she's really smart and kind of only moderately pretty.
Rude.
Yeah, it's kind of shitty. So, scene change. We go to JT and Mickey, who are working on their problem, which is the power issue. They can get the hover technology to hover up in the air, but it always has to be plugged into a wall, and who thinks that's cool?
Well, and you can't go anywhere. But I mean, that would be enough for a science fair.
Yeah.
Showing it hover above the ground would be a fantastic.
Yeah, that ends up winning them the science fair, even though they figure out some other stuff, but they have to keep it a secret. So they're discussing it, and Mickey poses that maybe they should ask the boys for help. And JT says no. So then Mickey starts asking her about how she likes Jax and Jax likes JT and why they aren't dating. JT says a prayer for the right words.
Wow.
And tells Mickey it's because she's Christian and he's not. They dated briefly before, but Jax broke it off because his dad died and he was having some big feelings.
Oh, this poor kid.
And it just wouldn't work because Jax is mad at God. Sophomores in high school worried about this.
I mean, that's how I was at that age, but
yeah,
if you live in that society, that culture, this isn't far off.
It just
but
sucks.
That is sad.
I know it's a reality. It just sucks.
That is really sad. And then this kid has the dual pressure of he isn't an atheist, but he is mad at God, and they're shunning him and are mean to him because he has these valid feelings and responses to a devastating loss.
Right. Mickey says that, yeah, if God killed my dad, I would also probably be pretty mad.
Yeah.
But JT says, this is one of JT's awful hot takes. She's got like half a dozen of them in the book. JT says that Jax hasn't made an effort to work through it, and is using it as an excuse to be mad at God, and it's not God's fault that the lab exploded. It was just a freak accident. Which, to me, isn't that just like the opposite of a miracle? Like, same odds, but just negative. Isn't that, like, that's still under God's purview, like, all-powerful, all-knowing God, all that good stuff. So we don't need to beat that dead horse.
Or that dead dad.
Yeah. I'm going to beat this dead dad with these God arguments.
So was that at the beginning, that was the perspective, was he was in his lab and then there was a noise and his head hurt and
there was actually
died?
an explosion at his lab.
Oh, okay.
But, he never actually experienced the explosion. He just took a blow to the head, which is a
Okay.
dark way to start a kid's book.
Yeah.
Another scene change, we go back to Jax and Izzy, and they are about to test out the machine. The machine is actually a car, because they're just doing Back to the Future. Jax asks where they're going, and Izzy says, more like, when are we going?
Finger guns.
They set the machine to go back 70 million years because they want to go see a T-Rex. They travel back in time, and Jax walks out and immediately gets poisoned by a spitting plant, dies slowly and painfully. Your face.
That came out of left field.
Yeah, it sure did, but it's a fake out, and Jax just wakes up in English class.
Fucking hell, god damn it! I was expecting him to get poisoned by the atmosphere, because wouldn't have been not really great for humans?
Yeah, well, I think at the time it was like different levels of oxygen and stuff like that, but I don't think it would have been like unbreathable. I think it just would have been uncomfortable because it would have been like super humid.
Ugh. I was actually really hoping that actually did happen, and then they just spent the rest of the time trying to like piece him back together and get him back to the future.
That'd be great. But no, it was just a dream. They did try the machine the night before, but it just didn't work. So after class...
Do they not realize they actually are playing with fire? If they actually did make it work, they could get stuck there.
Yeah, they sort of talk about it, or just like, yeah, couldn't this cause a butterfly effect? And they're just like, nah, don't fucking worry about it. It's fine.
We run over the butterfly.
Yeah.
There is no future.
There was an old sci-fi movie that they just did that. They actually just killed a butterfly and it fucked up everything. And I was like, that's heavy-handed, but that's fine. So after class, Jax and Izzy talk to the girls and claim that they did everything right with the machine, and Jax just refused to believe that his dad was wrong about his plans because this is actually his dad's project, and he's just building it off of his dad's blueprints. Another reason why this isn't a fucking science project.
Right, because
or a science fair project.
Right, because he's using somebody else's methodology and plans.
He's just being a wrench turner. He's not actually learning anything other than just basically being a time machine mechanic.
Right, he's not planning it himself. Which I know I get the paperwork from the school all the time of like, your child has this project, please supervise them and don't do the work for them. Because it's really a big problem of parents wanting it to look perfect and wanting it to be perfect, so they take
and not
over.
Letting their kids actually learn from the experience.
Yeah, and do it. Because children need to do the thing, and it won't look perfect because they're kids.
And this dad is doing that from beyond the grave.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Bullying me after you're dead.
So JT and Mickey, they do a little bragging about their little partial successes because their
Well,
shit is
yeah,
working.
Yeah. And if they're not using someone else's plans, that's even better.
Yeah, and as far as we know, they're not, but who really knows? But Jax, the story does go out of its way and say that Jax is legitimately happy for them. Like, he's not, like, super jealous or anything of them, which is nice.
He's a good sport.
Yeah.
That's good.
On the way home, Izzy is complaining that they received another assignment in their history class on the construction of pyramids, and they're super bummed out about it. But then they decide if they get their time machine working, then they can just go back and see the pyramids being constructed, which to me sounds like a fuckload more work than just doing the research now.
Also, you won't have a way to prove that you did the historical research.
Yeah, you can't get references.
Right, you won't have references, you won't have proofs.
Your references, trust me, bro, I saw it.
Exactly, which no one is going to believe.
So that's their plan, as stupid as it is.
I mean, it's a kid.
Yeah, I mean, that's
kids,
definitely a plan kids would come up with.
Yeah.
I just think it's dumb.
Did we have camera phones in 2010? Like, good camera, like, taking videos?
I think some kids did. They had, like, Blackberries.
Yeah.
I think Blackberries were around at the time.
You had a Blackberry in 2010, didn't you? It did not take good video.
Nah.
It took okay pictures. I was just thinking, I mean, you could have a little camcorder, but, like, how would you prove this was actually legit?
Right, not just, like, a bunch of Egyptian actors.
And I think this is also part of the problem in this world, because I grew up believing all of this and knowing who these people were. You don't learn what actual scientific research looks like. You don't know how to cite sources because you have to go off of what people around you just say.
Yeah.
Because their authority is what makes it true. I think that's he's kind of showing, embody that culture.
Yeah.
This way.
That does continue to be a theme throughout.
I'm not surprised.
Because just like with the science fair project, it doesn't actually fairly represent what a science fair project is. It's just kids doing a gadget.
And it's possible, not saying it's true, it's possible that the authors and some of the people he worked with were homeschool students themselves. Because this homeschool kind of movement started in the 80s, early 80s, I think. Some people were homeschooled in the 70s, but not many.
Yeah.
It became much bigger through the 80s and then much bigger in the 90s.
That's entirely possible, because I think Tim Shafee is like 40
Yes,
or
so I was thinking he might be in the right age bracket, because I know people who were homeschooled who are now homeschooling and have had no experience of formal education in any school building. Anyone aside from a mom or a dad or a cousin who knew something vaguely, or a book. That would mean that they are twice removed from that, like, information, because it's like, I don't know what my kids experience in school every day. I can read about it, but I can't experience it.
Yeah.
I could imagine writing a book like this of being, oh, they're in a high school. I've never been in a high school. What do? They have thumbprint scanners. We build time machines in the science fair. So I'm just saying, it's possible he did not have an education.
Right.
Of the kind you would need to know what this is like.
Yeah. Another scene change. They go back to JT and Mickey. They're working on their project again. They put a shitload of AA batteries on their hoverboard. JT prays for a solution to their power problem, and they just decide to do a mock-up plugged-in version into the wall. It is just good enough. And that didn't really add anything. I just think it's funny to imagine a skateboard with a bunch of AA batteries taped to it.
Very Zelda. I'm just gonna glue all these batteries to my hoverboard.
You know who else uses a lot of glue?
And AA batteries.
Fucking better. That's how they do their
Adam
therapy.
And Eve.
Oh. Oh no.
Hello, Biblio fans, friends, and fiends. Just taking a moment to tell you how to find our growing community. We're on Facebook and Instagram, where I try to post pretty often. And we have a subreddit that we will start using as soon as BamBam gets over his crippling fear of Reddit. And of course, our YouTube. Look us up at BiblioWrecks. We would love to hear suggestions and chat about bad books there, as well as over email, BiblioWrecks@gmail.com. That's spelled BiblioWrecks. Thank you for listening. Now let's get back to that bad book. And we're back for more dinosaurs and AA batteries.
Yay.
Not in that order.
I liked your pivot way better than mine. We're back to working on the time machine.
Mm-hmm.
Jax and Izzy are doing like theoretical math to like figure out how to fix the time machine, but they get frustrated and they're just like, we did everything right. It's impossible that...
Even though this is all theoretical, this
Right.
isn't real established science that we can go back and study what other people have done.
Right, and that's what Izzy says. He's like, maybe time travel just isn't possible, and
Right.
Jax is just like, fuck you, my dad said it's real.
Wow.
So it's real. He doesn't actually say that, I'm paraphrasing.
No, I know, but I also... I know he didn't say that in his Christian kids, but I have met other kids, though, who worship their dad. That was definitely...
Yeah, and I've got that wrote down. Like, this feels like he still has faith, but he's got faith in his dead dad instead of God.
In some families, some churches, God is the step, or your dad is the step between you and God. Like, you obey and listen to your dad like he's the voice of God.
Right.
And I don't know how much that belief is part of their specific culture and flavor of Christian.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I've seen other people behave that way. Like, my dad said this, that means it is true and a fact.
Right. So they don't make any changes to the time machine. They just change how far back they're going.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, how did I not see this?
Yep.
I didn't see it coming. I am an idiot. Wow.
So they change it from going back 70 million years to going back 4,500 years. And it works.
Oh,
because in this universe, the universe only goes back 6,000 years. That's why they couldn't go back 70 million years because there wasn't anything then.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I should have seen it. I should have seen it.
Oh, we're getting in some more bullshit. Here we fucking go. So they appear in a meadow in what they later describe as North Dakota, or what looks like North Dakota.
Right.
But they are physically in Egypt, so it's not a desert.
Wait, but it's a time machine, not a movement machine.
Well, I guess it's a time and space machine, but I guess space just doesn't get top billing like time does.
Because it should have been exactly where they were before, only.
Yeah, no, it's got spatial control too.
Oh, well, fine then.
Yep.
Be that way.
So they appear in this meadow, and they think they hear a helicopter, like right away. But it's actually a giant dragonfly, and what I believe is called a meganeura. And this is actually a species of giant dragonfly that lived 275 million years ago. And the only remains we've ever found of this are in North America and Europe.
Oh.
So as far as I know, there's no evidence actually putting these things in Egypt, so it just feels kind of strange that he picked meganeura for this.
Also, those aren't in the Bible. Giant dragonflies are not.
Well,
in
a
the
lot
Bible.
of this stuff is just extra biblical. Like, a lot of this stuff is just implied from, like, a certain interpretation of Noah.
Huh. Okay.
So that's where a lot of these ideas come from.
So this is supposed to be after Noah.
I think this is before Noah. I was actually hoping you would be able to answer this question because it's 4,500 years ago. I think this is what's probably going to end up happening. They're going to experience Noah, so I'm assuming this is before Noah, but only like a little bit. Like, they're going to meet Noah probably later in the series, I assume.
Well, if we go by the ages of Adam and the other people who are supposed to have lived 900 and what odd years,
Right.
Noah couldn't have happened until about 2000. And then Jesus was born 2,000 years ago. So in between that 4,000, you have Noah and then all the other stuff that happened. I actually never could square in my head.
Yeah, kind of hard to square that circle.
Stuff happened between Adam and the other stuff, because I would even do the math of, well, if you look at how old Adam was when he had a kid and then how old that was. Like, you could do the math to figure out when Noah's flood happened. But it all kind of squishes it all to, like, a ton of stuff happens in a very small amount of time to make all of it work. I don't know.
Yeah. It's almost like all the math is made up.
Yeah, and who even knows what it originally was?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the young Earth creationist timeline, so everything has to exist very briefly for like 1,000 or so years. Like all the dinosaurs and extinct species all the way up to the Ice Age have to exist very briefly and then be wiped out in Noah's flood at some point.
I guess they do believe in the Ice Age.
Yeah, because they're not denying in this scenario, I guess, that all these fossils were living, breathing animals at one time.
Okay.
They just don't think they lived for as long, or that like evolution works the way that
right.
all the evidence points to it working. So they're excited that the time machine works, even though it took them to the dinosaur time instead of Egypt, because they're under the impression that computer like messed up or something, and it actually took the input that they put in the night before. So they're under the assumption that they're 70 million years ago.
Oh. Some of the flora and fauna seems like it could be from that time.
Well, the only real description we get are like exotic-ish looking trees, but it's described as looking like North Dakota.
Okay.
So it can't be that exotic, at least to some American kids.
Right. Okay. I have to admit, I'm just imagining that these kids are from Kentucky. Because that's our answers in Genesis.
Yes. Fair assumption. Yeah. No reason why they can't. I don't know that it says where they are at any point. But anyway, so they climb up a hill to get a view and like just check things out. They see a large dinosaur laying on the ground. This also gets a little weird. Jax throughout the story repeatedly calls this dinosaur a monster, which I feel like is a weird thing to call an animal.
Yeah. I mean, if they were planning on going back and seeing a dinosaur, why wouldn't he just call it a dinosaur?
Yeah. So that's kind of strange, but he repeatedly calls it a monster for whatever reason. And they think it is a Allosaurus, and that's kind of like a smaller, more athletic version of like a T-Rex.
Oh, okay.
This one's kind of plausible as far as Egypt goes, because they lived 145 million years ago. Fossils have been found of them in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, Germany, and also Tanzania. So that's actually a little bit west of Egypt, so it's plausible that they could have at one point roamed over Egypt. So that's one thing that kind of lines. If you ignore all the other shit that doesn't line up, that one lines up perfectly. That's when another smaller Allosaurus bursts from the trees and starts chasing them.
Hold on a sec. I'm sorry to keep...
go ahead.
Do they, in this retelling, do they talk about Pangea?
No, not in this book anyway. They might talk about it later.
Some people believed that all of creation was on Pangea, and the flood is what created the separate continents.
Okay.
And that's one reason people reject where the locations of the fossils are, is because they believe it's called catastrophic creationism, I believe, where everything is changed in a moment and science didn't proceed at the same pace. It changed to very quick and then slowed down. So a lot of things happened at the flood and then it slowed way down, and that's like the waters of the deep was referring to Pangea separating into the continents. And I was just wondering if that was, because if this is before Noah, it's possible they would actually be on Pangea. It wouldn't matter
maybe
which dinosaurs they see, because they don't really believe in historical geology either.
Well, I know the continents were a lot different 145 million years ago from maps and stuff I've seen describing the time. Right. It's hard to tell for me because I'm not entirely sure. But
I just didn't know if they brought that up in this book.
They might later in the series. I mean, this is a super short book, so.
The other problem with creationism is none of them have the same, because it's not based on real science, none of them agree. Yeah. Everyone has their own harebrained idea.
Well, it's because it's just more religion. And just depending on how you look at shit, it changes.
Yes. It's kind of like the flat earth people. Some think it's a donut. Some think it's a disc. disc. Some think it's concave.
Well, we can't get into flat Earth right now.
No, but it's the same idea. They can't agree on
Right.
what the model should look like because it doesn't match up with the math. That's the way creationism
Yeah,
is.
because they can't
It
use
doesn't-
actual math. They have to
Right.
use made-up shit that doesn't
Right.
actually align to anything.
That's just my point of why I can't tell you what this guy's belief is because his will be very different from Kent Hovind or mine as a kid or someone else.
Yeah, they're getting chased by this Allosaur, and it's really confusing trying to figure out exactly how far away the Allosaurus is at any given time because it's described as being like right on top of them and about to get them like any second, but it never actually does. It feels like this like they go over some terrain
In the
in this
car?
No, they're walking. They walked away from the time machine and then they're running back.
Oh.
And it's really confusing because the chase isn't described very well, but Jax almost gets eaten, but instead gets knocked off of a cliff and survives. And the Allosaur turns and starts chasing Izzy, and Izzy like climbs up a tree really fast. And he's kind of just bayed there for a little while. And the Allosaurus, he just sits there at the bottom. He's like, I know you have to come down at some point.
So this is an intelligent beast.
Semi-intelligent at the very least, yeah. Now we do a scene change. JT and Mickey are playing with their hoverboard again. They're like getting a version to like pick up a teddy bear. It's kind of funny. And that's when Jax just shows up at their house and he's in a big huff asking to use their hover technology.
Huh, that's rude.
Yeah, and they're just like, no, because of all the power issues and stuff.
And they're putting it in the science fair to win $50,000. I wouldn't let anyone steal my stuff either.
That's when Jax brings out one of his dad's power cells, because his dad had to like build like these special power cells to power the time machine. And for some reason, they just fucking work with this hover technology.
Oh.
Yeah, who'd have thunk? It just plugs right in. It's fine. It's great.
Are we sure that Dad wasn't the time traveler who got stuck in 2008?
Could have been. So yeah, that just works out conveniently and perfectly. A big deal is kind of made about these power cells. Like, they're solar charging power cells that like charge up like really fast and are like super powerful. If any country were to get a hold of them, they would basically just automatically be a superpower, and they were going to use them to put in a fucking science fair project. And that Mickey and JT bring that up later. They're just like, hey, weren't you going to put this in the science fair? Don't you want this to like be secret? And then Jack's like, oh yeah, I probably should publicly show the super secret thing my dad was working on. Anyway, so Jack clues the girls in, tells them what all's going on, time travel, dinosaur, blah. That's when JT, she makes a little comment. She says she doubts that they could even know what year it was, and Jack's just like, well, of course, it was 70 million years ago. We saw dinosaurs, stupid. That's when dinosaurs were.
Okay.
So we're gearing up to...
And she's the creationist. Young Earth creationist. Because there are
all
creationists who believe in an old Earth.
And these kids, all of them are kind of like straw man atheists is what they are in the story. So like I feel like over the course of all these stories, they're all going to get converted into young Earth creationists.
Right. Kind of like in Left Behind. Every character slowly becomes the perfect Christian.
Right.
TM. I'm on my game
Owned by
today.
Yeah, you got the Wizards. Jack says he has the exact time he left so that it will be like he never actually left Izzy for any time at all. And that confuses me later, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Right.
For a point later. Izzy feels abandoned for like a couple of seconds because it's really confusing because it never says that it turned night, but apparently it's nighttime now, and he saw the flash of the time machine leaving, so he knows that Jax has left him, and he feels abandoned for like 2.5 seconds before he sees another flash.
Ah, gotcha.
Jax put all the hover tech and stuff on the car, had to do some amount of welding, but in any case, the hover technology is on the car and it flies, so he's having to fly fly this car stealthily in the dark and has to drive by cardinal directions. This part confuses me, and I feel like it's almost just there to make Mickey look dumb. Mickey, like, she hears that Jax is, like, going by cardinal directions, so she, like, sticks her head out the window to look up at the stars and get, like, cardinal directions that way, which I think is kind of smart. But Jax just like, hey, look here, and he like points to the dash, and there's just a compass on the dash, and she's like, oh, well, I'll be quiet now. I felt like that was weird.
It's just to put down.
Yeah.
It's just to put her down.
Yeah.
And show that he's like already thought of this. Duh.
So that was weird. For some reason, even though Jax has mounted all of this stuff and he could have taken as much time as he wanted to set everything up, the girls still have to like steer the hover technology by hand. And I guess he's just looking out the windshield because he's not steering. What does he have to do? I guess he's like pulling switches.
I don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, they're in a car. They've got they're flying in the air, and I guess there are like two for like steering in the back.
They're using the hoverboards to lift the car? Why?
They wanted a flying car like in Back to the Future.
But he could already drive and go through time and space.
Yes. Anyway. So they have to like steer by hand, and they almost immediately like lose control. Like Mickey almost gets thrown out of the car because they have to like open up like the back hatch, and she almost gets like slung out. And they get back under control, and Jax he's just like, hey, be more careful next time. And I'm just like, you made this shit, dude. You made it stupid.
Right.
You could have just mounted this in a way. You had technically infinite time. You can time travel now. You can take as long as you want.
Yeah.
You made it dumb. Anyway. So they find the tree that Izzy's in, pick him up, and they try to return home, but
That's why they needed the hover, was to get him out of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay. So they left him in time to see if they could make the car float.
And technically, he could have taken as much time as he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Because he returned right back to the moment that he left. They try to return home with the time travel, but the repulsors have used too much energy, and they can't time jump. And that's when another Allosaurus chases them, and they just conveniently escape it. And they pour on the juice. They go super fast for a minute. So cool how fast they go. It's
very cool.
And they land on top of a hill with the plan to wait it out until morning and let the solar cells charge when it gets light out. So this is the part where the vast majority of the apologetics come from.
Okay.
And where Jack starts emotionally abusing himself for letting JT be in like any kind of danger, which is really weird because this wasn't like super high stakes. Like there was a dinosaur for like a second. Like he should feel bad for Izzy being in danger because he was in way more danger than the girls at all.
Right.
And I guess he just doesn't give a shit about Mickey, which I feel like no one gives a shit about Mickey. Despite the clear and present danger of dinosaurs, they all get out of the car and just like hang out. And Jax, this is when his little self-abuse starts, and he starts like guilt-tripping himself, and he just like goes back in the car by himself. The rest of the group starts speculating on stuff at time and whatnot. JT starts praying and thinking of Psalm 8, 3-4. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and stars which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him? I don't know what it means. I figured that might
It means
have some meaning.
You got a big head, take it down a notch, kid.
Yeah, these shitty kids are just too dang smart.
You need to feel small. Look at the sky and feel small.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
That's what they use. And it's also used to kind of brush away people's deaths or a loss. It's kind of like, it's actually the opposite of if a sparrow falls from the sky, Jesus sees it. If he will watch a sparrow fall and know it, how much more valuable are you? It's the opposite of that. It's why would God pay any attention to you? You should feel like nothing because the universe is so big.
Okay, gotcha. That's when Mickey asks, she's just like, hey, how's that cognitive dissonance going? Because you think that crazy thing about the Earth being 6,000 years old. JT asks how they really know when they are, because she heard Izzy talking about that they had actually set the machine to go 4,500 years back, and they just assumed it was a computer error somewhere.
Right.
That's when Mickey replies that that's when dinosaurs live. All scientists say so. So making a straw man, calling for a answer from authority. And JT says it's about our presuppositions. We just created hover technology, and I worked out the problems right alongside you. I didn't have to give up my belief in the Bible to do science. And this is like setting up like a false dichotomy of you're either like a young earth creationist or you're like this evil evolutionist atheist.
Yes.
So...
Wait, that's not true?
All right, just because we're on that. So Mickey says, but you're rejecting everything science knows to be true. And I take issue with that straw man there. Because science doesn't really know anything to be true. Science only accepts what it has to, where all the evidence leads. And like when you're trying to prove something, you never prove anything. You just fail to disprove it.
But they can't live that way or think that way because...
Right, because they have to live by faith.
Yes. That's why everyone is so bent out of shape over whether the Bible is literal or not.
Or metaphorical.
Because if it's literal, you have to give it ultimate authority over everything else. You can't disprove pieces of the Bible the way you would deal with science because it's a matter of faith.
So, yeah, she says, you're rejecting everything science knows to be true. And everyone, like, throughout the book, like, several times, they say, I thought you were smarter than this to JT because we just have to make the young earth creationist the victim in every conversation.
Yep.
JT says, no, many scientists believe exactly what the Bible teaches about the age of the earth, so that's not even a good argument.
I think they have like 5 or 6.
I think that is, well, it's also a misrepresentation because there are scientists that believe that, but none of them are geologists, or none of them are good geologists.
Yeah.
So they'll take like a scientist, like there'll be a or there'll be like a chemist or something like that.
Yes.
That's a scientist that believes the young Earth age or something like that. So that's where shit like that comes from. But then she says, even if every scientist believed in an old Earth and evolution, truth is not decided by a popular vote. Which is, like, why bring up that there are young Earth creationist scientists if it doesn't matter how many there are, because that doesn't equal truth. So why bring that up? It's just 2 sentences that immediately, like, cancel each other out to me.
It's the same way people who believe using herbs to treat cancer will say, well, you can't believe pharmacies, you can't believe doctors, you can't believe studies.
Yeah.
But hey, I have a study backing up why oregano will kill skin cancer. And it is cognitive dissonance. I really struggled with that really bad for years.
Yeah. It's hard to get through, too. So... that's when JT silently thanks her youth pastor for teaching her what he calls apologetics.
I think if something's real, it doesn't need apologetics.
Yeah, one
That's
would
my
think.
belief.
Yeah, you shouldn't really have to apologize for something that
because nobody
just
has
exists.
had to argue with me that the sun is in the sky or that grass is green.
Yep. So then she points out the machine was set to 4,500 years ago, not 70 million, and for all they know, Egypt could have looked completely different 4,500 years ago, and the only reason they think that any different is because they saw a dinosaur. And she says that dinosaurs completely fit in a young Earth creationist model, because they just believe that a magic man made them.
Yes.
Doesn't have to make sense, it's magic.
Well, and the idea is that they weren't evolved from each other. God created them all simultaneously.
Right.
They all existed at the same time. Have you heard why people believe that tiny fossils are at the bottom and big fossils are at the top of the fossil record?
I know a lot of people just don't understand the geologic column, but yeah.
Do you want to know why? Do you want to know what I've heard?
Tell me.
Okay.
Is it because the water, push down the smaller stuff further in the flood?
No, you can prove this. You can prove this with science.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you how.
Okay.
You take a jar and you fill it up with gravel, and then you take smaller gravel, and it sinks to the bottom.
Okay.
And then you take sand, and it goes all the way to the bottom. So if you shake it, the sand is all the way at the bottom. That's what happened. Because when we had the flood, it shook up the earth.
Okay,
like
yeah,
dirt in a bottle.
that tracks with all this. I think I've heard that one with this. Have you heard anything about the heat problem with Noah's flood?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, for all of the earth and material and stuff to have been moved the way it would have had to for young earth creationism to have made sense, enough heat radiation would have been made to basically melt the entire earth.
That's where people have the dome idea. They'll use the dome to counteract that. Because I was told that there was a dome of water above the earth, and that broke and landed on the earth, and that's where the water came from.
Wow. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, because it's the very beginning of Genesis when it has creation, the sun and the morning and the evening were the first day. It has how God placed the waters below and above. And people take that as literally there is a bubble of water around the earth.
And that's why the sky is blue, and when it rains, it's just leaking.
Kind of. But the flood was a giant leak. And people you'll say, well, where did the water go? And they say it sank into the earth because it wasn't there before. I've actually heard people say that they didn't believe there was oceans before the flood. And that's where the oceans came from. Because no one had built a boat before, and that's what made Noah so special. He was the first one to build a boat. That's kind of a rare idea. That's not the mainstream creationism, but it is one I've heard.
All right, we gotta get through this.
Sorry,
it's fun to go on sidebars, but we go through
I have so many stories.
So that's when the group asked JT thinks that all of their teachers are just wrong, and that's when she says she thinks that they just weren't taught how to question things that they've been taught. Which is crazy, just not questioning things that you've been taught and just expecting them to be true, and coming up with like continual layers of ridiculousness to try to keep that belief. It's crazy.
See, you're dealing with cognitive dissonance, because to you it doesn't make sense. It makes sense because they believe you question and reject any authority that isn't your pastor or your dad.
Yeah.
That is how it works.
Yeah, I understand how it works. I like making fun of it a little
kids,
bit.
When you're a kid, this makes your brain implode. It is so bad.
You can't argue with your parents, but you can definitely believe that science doesn't work.
Oh yeah. So all the
science is
are
just
wrong.
an abstract idea that's not going to hit you. So JT says that the dinosaurs got wiped out in the flood, and if you want more answers, then they should talk to her youth pastor.
Say that again.
She says that the dinosaurs got wiped out in the flood.
Really?
According to her belief system, yeah.
And this is the young Earth creationist girl? Wow. Oh, huh. That's a different perspective, because there's a couple different ones on this one, too. A lot of people believe Noah took the dinosaurs on the ark, but
they just went extinct after?
They went extinct after because there wasn't enough food, and the humans populated and hunted them to extinction. The other idea is that climate changed after the flood, and that it was no longer viable for dinosaurs, and that's the same reason people stopped living to 900 years.
And why the bugs aren't as big anymore, because the oxygen's different.
Yes. Like that, like the flood was this climate disaster that changed everything, and that even coming off of the ark, things were changed so that the animals who went onto the ark couldn't necessarily thrive afterward. But that is a different. It's kind of not really common for people to say that the flood wiped out the dinosaurs, because that rejects the idea Noah took on two of every kind. That is a contentious thing within.
Yeah. Well, they've also got the notion of like kinds and stuff like that.
Yes.
And if they really wanted to, they could say that they got certain dinosaur kinds, because dinosaurs are Nowadays they're classified as like non-avian dinosaurs, and then you've got avian dinosaurs, which are modern day birds because they descended from theropods, which are like your velociraptors, your T-Rex, stuff like that. So we gotta stay on track. So yeah, if they want more answers, then they should talk to her youth pastor.
Bada bing! I said it.
Gotta rope them in.
I said it. Reject any authority that isn't your pastor or your dad.
So everyone thinks she's full of shit until she points out that the stars in the sky are in the same formations as they are in modern day. Because it is generally accepted that 70 million years ago, just from like current day astrology and the movements of the heavens.
The stars would have moved enough to have be different, 70 million versus 4,500.
And they can just look up and see that all the constellations are the same.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which, in this universe, that would be like good evidence.
Yes.
That would be good evidence that this is true.
Observational evidence.
Right. But it's silly to pretend like that's even close to an argument because we don't have time travel.
I mean, we're in a sci-fi novel.
Right. It feels fucky because this is supposed to be trying to convince kids that this stuff makes any amount of sense. But it only makes sense in this scenario, and not all kids can, like, separate those two ideas out when they're young like that.
This is meant to be given to a kid like me who knew people who didn't believe in it, and to just have that intense feeling of, if I had a time machine, I would show them.
Yeah. This is wishful thinking, the child's book.
Yes, and to make them feel better and reinforce their beliefs. It has nothing to do with proving to them any of this is true. It's reinforcing their emotions around their dad is right, their pastor's right, and if you had a time machine, you could prove to everyone else that dinosaurs really did stomp on men.
You know what reinforces my emotions and makes me feel better? Capitalism. And ads.
Ads.
Hey, Biblio fans, friends, and fiends. Just taking a moment to tell you how to find our growing community. We're on Facebook and Instagram, where we try to post as often as we can. We have a subreddit that will start as soon as we get over our crippling fear of it. And, of course, our YouTube. Look us up at BiblioWrecks, spelled BiblioWrecks. We would love to hear suggestions and chat about bad books there, as well as over email. Our email is BiblioWrecks@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to that bad book. And we're back, because capitalism.
Well, I mean, we do this for fun. This isn't paying our bills.
Yeah, we don't get shit out of this except enjoyment.
Yeah, which I'm really enjoying this one.
It is a lot of fun.
I had a question. Was the dinosaur that they've been randomly chased around by, is that the same one that's on the cover of the book?
I assume so. Like, it looks like a T-Rex, but the only dinosaur that actually appears besides a Parasaurolophus is the Allosaur.
Oh, okay.
And it's definitely not a Parasaurolophus.
Right. I don't know many names of dinosaurs.
It's the kind of duck-billed looking dinosaur with a big crest on his head. That's a Parasaurolophus.
Okay. I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah, JT says, just look at the stars, and now everyone has to go meet her youth pastor, because she made a point that they couldn't refute. Because Mickey tries to talk her way out of it, and she's just like, yeah, maybe the stars just happened to realign at this time, and JT's just like, that's ridiculous.
I mean, the only proof they have is a number on a dashboard. So I'm just kind of crazy. I'm just wondering why they feel like this is proof at all of anything.
Right. Because no one knows how this fucking time machine works. No one knows how the time works.
Right.
For all they know, this could be multiverse theory. They could just be in a different universe.
Or the time machine could have just brought a dinosaur to modern day Montana or North Dakota.
Maybe.
They could just be in North Dakota
and
letting
don't know
dinosaurs
shit about how this works.
Wasn't that what that TV show was? What was that called? I don't remember. But it had those portals that had loose dinosaurs everywhere. It was a good show.
Yeah. So, Yeah, everyone's bummed out because now they all have to meet her pastor.
I would be bummed out too.
Yeah. So everybody just goes to bed in the car. So the next day, JT gets up and watches the scenery. She sees a herd of God damn it! This dinosaur's name is so fucking hard. I've struggled with this one for a year. I've only recently been able to say Parasaurolophus correctly, and I'm still not sure if I'm doing it right.
That's okay.
Because it's spelled fucked up. And I struggle. It's fine. A herd of Parasaurolophus are drinking at a river, and she's just watching them. Parasaurolophus lived 70 million years ago, so that one lines up. They lived in Alberta, or they've been found in Alberta, New Mexico, and Arizona, from what research I did. Yeah,
right.
Just a fun fact. I like knowing stuff like that. I like dinosaurs. I was one of those kids.
Rory likes dinosaurs too. I don't know much about dinosaurs, but they look cool.
Yeah. So Jax comes out and talks to her, and by checking each other's watches, they figure out that even when they're in the past, time in the present is still progressing, which doesn't make any sense because I don't understand how this time machine works. I feel like there must be like multiple settings because you can set it for a specific time, like down to the second, right? Mm-hmm. Because he remembered the exact time that he left Izzy. But also you can just go back a broad 4,500 years. So I guess it's just like sort of like a math equation. You can just put in minus 4,500 years and you just go back that much time. It just deducts that much time from where you're at.
I don't know.
It's really confusing. And just the idea that time is still progressing in the present. Just don't go to the actual just go to the time you left.
Yeah.
This is you have a time machine. This is a non-issue. Just go slightly backward.
I mean, they could have watched Doctor Who and seen how that works. You just go back to the same time.
Right.
Unless you have a timey-wimey accident and that throws you off. You just say, I'll be back in 5 seconds, and then you walk back in 5 seconds 10 years older. That's just how it works.
Yeah. But now they're under this impression that time is still progressing.
It doesn't have to.
Right. It's fucking stupid. It angered me, and they don't spend any time on it. They're just like, oh, time is still going. Oh, we're going to be late for the science fair.
You're going to get grounded for sleeping in a car with person of the opposite gender.
Forgot about that.
Even if there's 4 of them, that doesn't matter.
So, yeah, now they have to rush to make it to the science fair, which is dumb. So, in short, the girls...
Why wouldn't you just go back home the night before, get a good night's sleep?
Right, or go to the present and then go back 12 hours.
Yeah.
You could just stay there. That's your new present.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's dumb. They go back, and to cut this entire bunch of shit out, the girls win the science fair with their hoverboard. They just do the mock-up one with the plug-in. It wins. It's fine. Mm-hmm. And the boys just don't present anything because that would require them showing off the secret technology that his dad invented that will cause somebody to become a immediate superpower, so they have to keep it a secret.
Then why build it for the science fair?
It's fucking stupid.
I would go back 3 or 4 weeks ago and kick myself in the ass and say, build something else.
Or else you're going to fail your class. So, yeah, it basically does. It's just the impetus that got a time machine built. Mm-hmm. And that's all that really matters. The science fair never mattered. Right. Science doesn't matter in this universe. It's fine. And then Bill and Ted, their ray gun goes off. And it's Chekhov's rig. Mm-hmm. It goes off and it destroys the hoverboard.
Why? Are we just trying to kick the girls? It's just
I don't know
beat up
why.
The girls' day?
It doesn't mean anything because they still win.
Yeah, but that is mean. They worked so hard on it.
Yeah. and it just gets taken away for like no reason. It's meaningless. It doesn't do anything. You get to see Mickey be like mad for a second because she's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, Bill and Ted.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been funny if it like disintegrated the principal's cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or something. Like that could have been amusing. That just feels mean.
Yeah, it just feels like it robs the girls of having any progress so that it feels more fair to the boys, maybe?
I don't know.
So that it feels like they're... I don't know. It's fucking dumb. So anyway, the boys have to take them out to dinner. So they eat, and then it's just Jax and JT hanging out. And Jax is still being moody because JT was in danger yesterday, and he thinks it's his fault and his responsibility. JT asks if he's okay. Jax tells her that he's been super worried and that he loves her.
Whoa.
Strong, yeah.
Strong, man.
So JT does the responsible thing and rejects him because she's just like, I've thought this out. I don't want this. Just fine. Yeah, good for her. She knows what she wants. That's great. Mm-hmm. So she rejects him on religious grounds. And Jax gets mad and asks how she could believe in a God who lets awful things happen. So he's still stuck on the problem of evil. Mm-hmm. He's not really as much focused on the science. He's just like, God's a bad guy.
Right.
So JT says, God didn't kill your dad. Stop blaming him. Jax rejects this, which I agree with. And JT says only Jesus can heal his pain. JT then blames the problem of evil on the fall of man and original sin and stuff like that.
Yep.
Which nothing comes of that, because immediately as soon as you go there, you're just like, well, God made original sin happen. Like, he's the one who put this whole fucking puzzle together. It's still his fault. That's when Jax's phone rings, and it's his mom who says something, and it upsets him, and he goes home, and they hug, and then the story's over.
Wow.
Yeah, it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. But we get an epilogue. Oh. And it's an epilogue of Jax's dad. Mm-hmm. Being held.
We opened with his dad, we closed with his dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it kind of closes the loop there.
Okay.
So Jax's dad is being held by a Latin American sounding man. Mm-hmm. And he's being forced to do evil science things for this secret man. Uh-huh. So I feel like this is eventually going to get a little bit conspiracy adjacent.
Like maybe the lab was blown up to cover up something.
Yeah.
Right.
Or I guess it was to cover up the fact that they kidnapped Jax's dad instead of just leaving an empty laboratory, and everybody would be looking for him. So if everybody thinks he got exploded, they wouldn't look for him.
Did you ever read A Wrinkle in Time?
Yeah. I don't remember much of it, but yeah.
It kind of is giving me that feeling of when the kids, Meg and her brothers, mm-hmm. when their dad disappeared, and he was a scientist for the government, mm-hmm. and the arc of the story is finding him and getting him back.
Right.
I'm kind of wondering if they're not setting up something along that line, because they'll have a time machine.
Right.
They can go back and see what happened to their dad.
Right.
He's going to have to face the moral question of, do they go back and try to save his dad? Mm-hmm. How is that going to affect the future? How's that going to affect the past?
Right.
How's that going to affect his beliefs in God? Blah, blah, blah.
And I'm sure they'll do the morally upright thing, regardless of what you believe. I'm positive.
I find it really odd that a book for kids would have this weird focus on a dad, mm-hmm. on a father figure.
Well, yeah, if you're a kid, you're supposed to listen to your dad, especially, I guess.
I know, but most children's literature is focused on the life of the child, mm-hmm. and what they're interested in, what they're doing. Yeah. Remember when we did Mary Poppins, and we could tell it was meant for an adult because mm-hmm. it focused on what Mary Poppins was doing,
right.
not the inner lives of the children? Most of it was observed by Mary Poppins.
I think that's because the two guys that wrote this didn't give a shit that kids would read this, because it's not for the kids' entertainment. It's so that parents can have something to give to their kids to read that they sanction as okay under the guidelines of their religion.
I just feel like that makes it worse. Mm-hmm. Like, if you bypass the bad messaging, the bad storyline, the bad ideas, blah, blah,
blah.
The
lying.
Just the fact that this has to be, even the emotions the kids have, the one emotion he has is rage over losing his dad. Mm-hmm. I just find that really odd for a child's story, and it's not really truly dealt with. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and everybody is just like, yeah, you're too mad about your dad being dead?
Right, which you would expect a kid to be really tore up and messed up for a while over that.
And the kids that aren't coming at it from a God perspective are just like Mickey. She's just like, yeah, that would really fuck you up. Mm-hmm. And everybody who's coming at it from a religious perspective, like the mom and JT, they're just like, yeah, you need to get over being mad at God. Get over it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is just...
poorly done.
It's shitty apologetics, and worse, it's shitty apologetics for kids and for indoctrinating.
And it's not even entertaining.
No.
Entertaining for us because...
Yeah. I feel like certain books can be enjoyed ironically like this, but only specifically this way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the writing was fine, like, grammatically speaking.
They had an editor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't spend any money on the art, but they spent it on the editor. So it's fine, if a bit cringe, because it's like a really gorky adult trying to talk to kids through a child character.
And that's
that
part
feels
of the
weird
problem
sometimes.
is when you have to have this core message, you can't actually focus on what makes a book good or fun. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of sad.
Yeah. So... it was at least like coherent moment to moment. It was. I knew what was happening.
The characters had names. Yeah. We knew who was speaking when.
God, the bar is so low. So, yeah, even though it was pandering to a Christian audience, all that good stuff, and I find it hard to give it anything better than a D, and I feel like I'm being generous.
Yeah, that feels generous.
Yeah.
I would see how people in this arena would think this is a really good book because they have very low standards and their children's content is really bad. So they probably thought they were fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, I mean, from my perspective, it's just an F because I wouldn't give this to anyone. I wouldn't pull anything out of it to use for anything else. I would throw the whole thing away.
Yeah, I'm trying not to entirely judge it on like a moral, my personal moral base.
Oh, I will. I will do the moral bashing.
And you're right, too.
Yes, I have seen firsthand how harmful this ideology is and how it truly affects people's long-term life choices and goals. And it's very harmful. It's very bad. I don't like it at all.
I did forget to deduct points on the narrator because I listened to the audiobook on Audible.
Oh.
And it was AI generated. And it was like... what it sounds like is the voice that does the Dr. Squatch commercials now. It's just that fucking AI man voice.
Ugh.
And it just sucks.
I hate the AI ad voices they have on those stupid videos now.
Yeah. And as far as I know, Tim Chaffee, like on his other works, I think he also has them AI generated voices too. So it's just lazy.
They probably don't have enough money or talent to have an actual studio with the people to just do it.
Well, I would let that pass, but I know Tim Chaffee doesn't like mind performing a little bit or being in front of a crowd because I know on Answers in Genesis fucking version of Netflix, he's got like a critique show on movies. So I know he's not shy about being in front of a crowd. I'm pretty sure
he was in the Night at the Creation Museum.
Right.
But even that, the camera quality was awful. They didn't have a proper microphone.
Yeah.
And that frickin' ark they're wanting to build is like millions of dollars. And they got these huge tax cuts from the state and the county.
Yeah.
They have money. They just won't put it toward the things that matter.
Right. So, yeah, I feel like that was lazy and shitty, so I feel like he should have just narrated it himself instead of done the AI version, but, that's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could harp on all day about how shitty the young Earth creationist crowd is.
I want to do a really quick shout out. I love Emma Thorne on YouTube, and that's the name of her channel. She has done stuff about Kent Hovind, who's a creationist. She's done stuff about Ken Ham, who owns Answers in Genesis. Fundy Fridays. Jen is the owner of that YouTube channel. She has gone to the Ark Encounter. She's walked around there. Fantastic. And then if you love podcasts, the podcast Oh No, Ross and Carrie, they went and did like an 8-part breakdown of this whole event at the Ark. And they went and did the whole tour. I think Ross actually walks through and talks through the whole exhibit. Really fantastic. Helped me understand some of the science that refutes some of this stuff. And they both grew up Christian.
Yeah.
So they come at it with an understanding of why people believe this. And I understand there's value in poking fun at it and just saying, haha, this is stupid. And there's also, for people like me, a lot of value in having someone patiently, very kindly saying, this is why this is wrong. I know a lot of people criticized Bill Nye for debating Ken Ham.
He
debated Ken Ham because they were saying, why would you give
him a platform?
Why would you give a platform to Ken Ham? But watching that video changed my life because Bill Nye came with science. He came with facts. He came with figures. And Ken Ham came with guilt, and you'll go to hell if you don't believe this. And that really, truly showed me, oh, if I want to follow the science, I can. Or I can follow the guy who just says, millions of years ago, I never changed anything. Meh, 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 meh. He kind of looks like a monkey himself.
Well, I've got my own shout out.
Yeah.
And another YouTube creator that helped me get through this little project, and one I've watched for years now because she's really cool. It's a creator called Gutsick Gibbon on YouTube.
You might want to slow down and spell it.
Gutsickgibbon.
Gutsick Gibbon. Okay.
Yeah. She is a biologist and an anthropologist.
Neat.
And she used to be a young Earth creationist because she was she was raised in young Earth creationism. She believed in Ken Ham, and her whole family did. And then she went to school and she started studying biology and anthropology. And now she's got her master's and stuff. And now a good portion of her time is just making fun of Answers in Genesis, and I love her for it. It's great.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's great. And that is actually why I did not go to college and go study biology like I desperately wanted to, is because I knew I would not be able to mentally handle the challenge of balancing my beliefs and balancing what I would learn in school. So, yeah, I'm very proud of her to have actually gone and done that route, because it's very challenging to leave that culture. And actually people will say, well, you can't go study that. Yeah. You can't go do that.
She's really cool. Just what you were saying before, very patiently walking you through why all of the young Earth creationist stuff is incorrect, and we have good evidence to say otherwise, other than just saying, yeah, that shit's dumb, like we did this entire episode.
Right.
I mean, we're more or less a comedy podcast.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And we do the shit take. We just bash stuff.
Yeah.
I will say, the linchpin for me was I was on Wikipedia looking up how crystals form, and that was this little rabbit trail of trying to figure out the age of the earth. And I saw a picture of this cave, I think it was in Mexico, and the crystals were fucking huge. They were the size of buses.
Is that the one where you go in and if you breathe without a mask or anything like that, the crystals will actually stop up your lungs and you'll die horribly? Or is it the humidity?
but I saw the picture, and the man next to the crystal, he was little teeny tiny, and the crystals were huge. And I realized that they can measure the growth of the crystals. And if those crystals had formed since the flood, in the recent 4,000 years, to grow to that size, we would be able to sit and watch them grow. And the fact that we don't watch crystals grow at that rate now means that it would have taken much longer.
Right.
And I was never an old Earth creationist. I had to throw all of it out at the same time. And that was just like, oh, I could myself do the math of how fast does this crystal grow. And that was very amazing to me to finally just look it up on Wikipedia, because before that I was always scared to, and I just didn't.
You should really check out Guts of Gibbon. She very informative, very cool. Yeah. And she also puts like memes and stuff in her video, and it's pretty funny.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to look her up. So
she's a little heavy-handed with the memes, but it's usually pretty good taste.
Is she a millennial? Is she like around our age? Or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, somewhere around. She's fairly young, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
But yeah, I think we should wrap this one up, because we've been on this one. I think we've actually talked almost as long as the fucking book.
Oh my God, because you said it was a 2-hour listen.
Well, I was also listening. I think normally it's like a 3-hour listen or something like that, but I was listening at like 1.7, I think, and I listened to it twice, so... God, it sucked.
Thank you so much, BamBam. That was a really good book. Not a good book. I really enjoyed
This is a good book to shit on.
Yes. This was not... Sometimes we just have these depressing, awful books. They'll leave you feeling...
Or they're just kind of just boring, and you just gotta like slog through them to get to like a couple of interesting bits.
Kind of like when I did Eternal River, and it felt like years of work to get to the last little bit where everything happened all at once.
I was dying, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. You're falling asleep, and I was like,
fuck, just make it end. I'll agree with anything you say. But yeah, I think
thank you, everybody. Follow us on all the socials. Send us an email if you want to, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye.
I can't. What's happening?
Whoosh, whoosh.
Dinosaur roar.
TARDIS noise.